All right, YouTube family. I know I have some explaining to do. It's been like a week and I haven't uploaded a single video. Well, we did do the final zone. We fought Dragon Family yet again, and we did end up losing. A lot of it came down to just activity. I mean, most of it actually. Honestly, all of it came down to activity. We just didn't show up, and they did. So, hats off to Dragon Family. They came up and destroyed us again. That being said, I know you guys have heard some stuff about the drama and whatnot. I'm not going to go into that too much. I talk about it on my streams from time to time. If you have questions, you guys can come join my stream and ask me there. But I'm not going to make a video on it. There's plenty of videos out there on it. You guys can watch those and make your own opinions. But today we're going to talk about Liliya. So Liliya is next because she was requested here on YouTube. And with that being said, if you guys have any heroes or any kind of guide that you want to see, you just need to let me know in the comments and I'll get to it. I will, eventually. If I have any requests, I usually try to do those first just because, you know, if that's what you guys want to see, that's what you want to see, right? For those of you that may be new to this channel, consider subbing for more content like this or check out my Discord for the written guides that I spent a lot of time on. As with all my hero guides, we're going to start on the skills and we're going to pretend like you don't know anything about this character. It's your first time seeing them. Maybe you're new to the game, whatever. So the first skill, Flames of Vengeance, it's her rage skill. It deals hero skill damage to the target and one other nearby legion. Now it says two, but that's because she's awakened. Okay, it's usually one other nearby legion with a 50% chance to scorch them, dealing hero skill damage every second for 5 seconds. This skill is nuts. I mean, it does a lot of damage if you really consider it, especially when she's awakened. If you do 3 targets, so it's 1 and 2 other nearby targets when she's awakened, that's 3,600 damage factor spread across those 3 targets. Now, if you also scorch all 3 of them, that's another 1,000 per character, okay? 6,600 damage factor spread across 3 characters. She does an insane amount of damage, for a mage, right? Her second skill, Dazzling Inferno, it's a passive. She gets 30% more peacekeeping damage, which again, that's just going to help you out with Darklings, Dark Creatures, things like that. It does not help out with Behemoths, so just remember that. Peacekeeping damage does not usually affect Behemoths unless it says otherwise. Third skill here, Deep Burn. All magic units in Liliya's Legion gain 20% magic attack and 10% HP. Very straightforward. Witchy Wiles is another passive. When she launches a normal attack, she has a 30% chance to scorch up to 2 surrounding enemy legions if the target is already scorched. So there's a lot of good synergy here with her skills, obviously. If we see other mages in the future that have Scorch effect, then Liliya is just going to be really good there too, which we'll talk about that a little bit because I think Liliya is probably the most future-proof of the characters within the, packs that you can buy. And then finally, her Awakening. Her Awakening, all it does is it adds an additional target to the, to the Rage skill, which that sounds like it's not a lot, but it's huge. I mean, it's a third target, and that's another Scorch target that you can proc your, Witchy Wiles off of. So, as far as priority, obviously, on pretty much every character in the game, you always want to max the first skill out first, okay? Get that first rage skill up. After that, I would say the best skill after that is going to be Witchy Wiles because you want to have a higher chance to just proc that Scorch and just keep that going. It's something that just ramps up your damage substantially if you can continuously scorch a plethora of targets as you're attacking, okay? Second skill, Deep Burn, 20% magic attack, 10% HP. Very, very good here for a passive. Usually that's going to be something that you want on every character, but in this case, I think Witchy Wiles is going to be a better option to get up before Deep Burn. And then finally, Dazzling Inferno. Peacekeeping damage, it's not really necessary. It really isn't. As you increase your troop size or like your maximum legion size and your character's levels and things like that, you kind of just overwhelm dark creatures anyways. So the peacekeeping damage, not really a big deal. Now, in terms of investment for Liliya, I would say she's a very high priority investment for mages, especially if you're in the earlier seasons. I do think we're going to get mage heroes like announced pretty soon for us in the later seasons. But in the earlier seasons, you can pay for Liliya. That's the only way to get her, is you pay for her through the honor packs. And you know, she's a guaranteed awakening after a certain dollar amount, which is really, really good. I think that she is a character that's going to stick with us for a long time, whereas I think Hosk is going to fall off. And that's just my personal opinion. I think Liliya is very future proofed as a hero. She has the skill tree, which is amazing on mages, and I just don't see a mage hero coming out that just completely replaces Liliya. If anything, they bring out a mage hero that does Scorch effect, and it just synergizes with Liliya and makes her even more useful in that march, right? So that, and there's already a couple mages with skill tree, so I don't foresee other mages coming out that are going to have the skill tree. So she's just always going to be a staple because the skill tree is just so strong, especially, like I said, on mages who have that very high AoE damage on their, their skills. So with that being said, I think that you really should consider investing in Liliya, especially early game. She's going to be very great for open field fights, all kinds of things. She's going to clear all content for you, really. If you want to focus on behemoths, obviously you go archers. Mages don't really have too much of a place in behemoths unless there's a specific affix that makes it so you need mages. But at the end of the day, mages are good pretty much everywhere, and they're honestly the best open field fighters in the game. So you definitely want to have them, and Liliya is just a staple for that. All right, so let's go into talents. This is what you're all here for anyways. Let's get a fresh talent sheet. Okay, so we're going to take the attack, we're going to take the movement speed, obviously, and then the HP. And then her mighty power is the node. Your legion gains 2% more hero skill damage and has a 10% chance to gain 20 extra rage. So we'll take that. We're going to go into the skill tree because, like I said, for mages, it's probably the strongest. So we'll take our attack here, and then we'll take our skill damage. Then we're going to take Head Held High, which is a very, very strong talent on mages because, again, we want to focus on the rage machine, okay? Then we have the option between Spirit of Rage, which casting rage skills grants 20 additional rage, or Boiling Blood, which is when casting rage skills, your Legion Deputy deals 8% more damage the next time they cast a rage skill. I like Boiling Blood, especially if you run her with like Valen and he's awakened. He's going to hit like a truck, and having him do 8% more damage is way more valuable in my opinion than getting 20 additional rage when you cast a rage skill. Yes, it's 40 because there's two characters casting rage skills, but at the end of the day, this is not going to outweigh 8% more damage overall, in my opinion, especially when you're hitting multi-targets, right? So then next we're going to go into two options, okay? We have Detached, which this is what I prefer because I really like hitting hard. This is going to lower your normal attack damage, but it's going to increase your skill damage. This is the one I recommend, okay? 8% more skill damage overall on two characters is a ton of extra damage, okay? Now, the other one you can do is Unquenchable Will. If you don't like having any detriments to your talents and you just prefer to have pure, benefits, then this is the best one to go for. It's going to ignore percentage of the enemy's HP. Now, what this means is when an enemy's HP is lower, they do less damage and they take more damage, okay? So when you're ignoring their HP, you're doing more damage to them and taking less damage from them, even when they're at max HP, okay? And that persists through the entire fight, right? Well, this is a very multiplicative effect if you think about it, because it applies to everyone you're in combat with, as far as I know. So what that would mean is if you're in battle with multiple legions and they're all attacking you, this is going to reduce the damage that they all do to you, okay? So it makes you kind of tanky. Not really a ton, but it makes you tankier than you would be. So that's your second option there. If you don't care and you want to follow me, then yeah, we're going to go for the skill damage all day, every day. Then we're going to go to focus. When launching a normal attack, your legion has a 10% chance to gain hero skill focus, increasing their hero skill crit rate by 2%, which goes up to 10. That's obviously we want to crit. Critting is huge. And then we get 15% more hero skill damage from Raging Tide. Then you have the option between Thirst for Blood, and then you have the option between Cage Animal. Now, on my written guides, I have Thirst for Blood selected. This is a mistake, okay? The written guide should be Caged Animal. And the reason why is because this gives you a flat 60 damage on your rage skills, whereas this gives you a percent scaling damage on your rage skills up to a maximum of 8%. Now, you're going to cast multiple rage skills in battle, especially if you're fighting these big open field battles. So, you know, you're only getting 60 damage here times 2, whereas this is going to scale and do significantly more damage as you cast your rage skill, okay? And because we're building the rage machine, or we're trying to make it so we're casting as many rage abilities as possible, as quickly as possible, you want to take Caged Animal because you're going to stack it up really quickly, okay? So we take Caged Animal, then we come over here on this side to the magic tree. We got to take the HP. And then we have another rage generation, so it's Foresight. This gives you a 25% chance on rage skills to grant additional rage, which goes up to 75. This is very good. You could potentially take magic speed if you really want speed. This will give you 15% movement speed, which is pretty good because mages are kind of slow. The next one is intimidation. We always love the skill damage. And then we have two options: Magic Maelstrom, which when your Legion consists entirely of magic units, which it will, they gain defense penetration before casting rage skills, ignoring 10% of the target's defense for 5 seconds. It can only happen every 30 seconds. And then they have Energy Boost, 8% chance to add an additional target to rage skills that deal damage to multiple targets. So this one you can't really go wrong with either. I mean, if you proc this Energy Boost and you hit another target, like, you're going to do an insane spike to your DPS. Whereas this is more consistent, and you guys know how I am. I love consistency. So we will take the Magic Maelstrom. I do like reducing the damage and just blowing targets up. I think it's more useful. And then for our final point, you can put it wherever. For me, I'm going to put it in Magic Speed because I like the movement speed. So that's my overall talent here, talent build for her. We're going to go Skill Tree first, Magic Tree second. Next up, we have our hero pairings. And the first and foremost is going to be Valen. Valen is just going to be a character that you get pretty early on. If you're using your golden keys, you're most likely going to get Valen. If you're investing in mages, okay, if you're a tier 4 or low spender, most likely mages are going to be your best option for investment. So Valen's going to be top of the priority for you in terms of golden heads or tokens, whatever you want to call them. You want to invest in Valen first because he's got some really, really good natural synergies with other mages. And what I mean by that is you have crit bonus for magic units, you have magic defense reduction, things like this that are going to make him good with pretty much every mage, even mages that come out in the future. So something to consider is he is a very future-proofed character. All of his skills are useful for PvP as well, which is something that you don't have on Liliya because she's got the peacekeeping tree. So Valen is a good character to invest in, and he's also going to be a very good character for Liliya as a pairing because of those natural synergies we talked about. Now, there are obvious synergies with Valen as well, especially when you awaken him. So Snowblind means that he does additional magic damage and removes the target's frozen effect if they have frozen on them. So an obvious synergy would be with Waldir, because Waldir can apply frozen as well. So putting these two characters together can also, ramp up Valen's damage pretty significantly. The other thing to think about too is Ice Core, which is on the Ice Lizard pet, can also apply frozen, which means that Valen has another source of frozen on the target that he can proc Snowblind on. So it really is there's a whole lot of options for Valen to really flourish. And so that's why it's okay to invest in him right alongside Liliya. Now, the other option that you're going to have really is Waldir. Waldir is the best epic hero in the game. He's the best starter in the game. There's no argument for it. He's just so good at what he does. And with the current meta, you have Mage Rally meta, and you also have, these giant field fights where there's hundreds of players or whatever fighting. Mages just excel. They just do really well, especially because the map designers love to put chokes in, and that's where we all fight around, or we should be fighting around, is chokes. So Waldir is an exceptional purple mage or epic mage that you can, confidently invest your tokens in and not have to worry about them being a waste. One thing to note about Waldir is for tier 4 players, he is an incredible mage as well because of the simple fact that he's a debuffer. So if we look at his first skill here, he inflicts gloom on them, reducing their attack by 20%. This hits 3 targets, but once he's awakened, it actually hits 4. So you're talking about 4 targets that you're reducing the damage of and also slowing, because once he's awakened, it also inflicts that freeze, which is what we were talking about, that obvious synergy with Valen. So this Waldir is a powerful character to invest in general, because if you're playing or prioritizing playing mages, most likely what you're going to want to do is just focus on all the mage heroes and get a bunch of mages and then run multiple mage marches. That's usually what you want to do. And if you're running multiple mage marches, then you can mix it up a little bit. You can go Liliya Valen, Waldir Alwyn, or what I like to do personally is I'll run Waldir primary because he has skill tree with Valen, and then I'll run Liliya with someone else like Hosk or something along those lines, like Alwyn, whatever. This is very, very dependent on how progressed your mages are. Mine aren't very progressed yet. If my Valen was awakened, then yeah, I would probably consider running him with Waldir more often. But my Valen's not, so I just kind of run Waldir as his own mage march if I'm running double mages, which doesn't happen very often, but when it does, I run Waldir as his own march because he has a skill tree as well, which is a powerful tree we've talked about. Now, again, if you're tier 4 and you're fighting up or you're fighting into tier 5s, it's very important that you debuff for your team, especially if you have a lot of tier 5s on your team. Debuffing is like the best thing you can do as a tier 4. When you attack into a tier 5, you're dying to counterattack. It's just the way the game is. It's the way the game's designed. I hate it just as much as you do, and I'm a tier 5 player. I don't think tier 4 players should take counterattack damage unless they're directly in combat with somebody, like they're attacking them and they're being attacked by that person, then they can take counterattack damage, whatever. But the severity of counterattack damage, that's for another video. I'm just saying that because you're going to be taking this massive counterattack anyways, the best thing you can do for your team is just to debuff the enemies as much as possible and make it easier for your tier 5 to win those fights, and just basically snowball off of your debuffs. So that's my recommendation. The third and final one, very unorthodox, is Hosk. Hosk you can use. He's not the best, but he does offer some benefits that make it nice to use him. You could even run him as your lead. Good luck with that, though, because he doesn't have great trees for mages. But, I mean, his skill is good. It gives you attack, it gives you HP, and increases your overall damage dealt. So you can't really go wrong with that. Once he's awakened, you get crit rate, and counterattack crit rate, which not really super great on Liliya. But this one's really good. 15,000 more units. That means more HP, which means you're in the fight longer. You're dealing more damage for longer. And then you finally have things like this, where if you do run him as lead, which, again, good luck because of his talent trees, you'll get more defense, which makes you a tankier march, and then also increases your normal attack, which I mean, mages have high attack, for what they are. They're not higher than archers, but don't just, overlook this just because, oh, well, mages are more skill damage based. No, I mean, think about how much you're auto attacking or normal attacking with your mages. Like, even though most of their damage comes from their skills, you're still normal attacking an absurd amount while you're building rage. So having 40% more normal attack is still going to be good. So just consider that when you're looking at this. Don't just think, oh, well, normal attack, not good on mages, because that's not the case. It's going to be somewhat good. It's still useful. This is really, the only time you're going to use Hosk really is when you have, you're using like 3 mage marches and you're really struggling to get those additional heroes for your marches. Hosk is one of those heroes that you can take, and as well as other supports, like you can take Thea, you can take we already talked about Alwyn, but you can take Atheist. Again, I wouldn't take the flyers at all unless you really have to, but just keep that in mind that you can take some of these other characters. Okay, finally, we're going to talk about our artifacts. So, let's back out of here. Can't see it from there. So, artifacts, right? I mean, the obvious choice for most of you, especially if you're free to play or you're a light spender, is going to be Phoenix Eye. Phoenix Eye you can get from the gold chest, so it's a very solid option to run. And honestly, out of all of the artifacts that have came in and replaced, I mean, you have Golden Crest, you have Spring Blades that came in and replaced these other ones, like Gold Crest replaced Shadow Blades for the most part, right? And then Spring Blades came in and replaced Sorlins and Kingslayer and all those, because these are just so substantially better. The one that came in for mages is an Infernal Flame, and although Infernal Flame is better, and there's no doubt about that in my mind, it is better, Phoenix Eye still holds up because of the way the game works right now. I mean, because you have these massive fights, and you're dropping a Phoenix Eye and hitting 5 targets if you have it maxed out, it's still going to do a substantial amount of damage, even with it being reduced. So Phoenix Eye, out of all of the tier 1, I'd call them, or season 1 artifacts, I feel like Phoenix Eye is one of the ones that holds up the best comparatively to its counterparts with like I said, cavalry or archers. Archers, like Spring Blades is so substantially better, and so is Golden Crest, that like you will just never, you'll never pick Sorlins or Kingslayer over Spring Blades. You just won't. There's no reason to. The only time you would pick Sorlins, okay, let me back up. Sorlins is a utility as well, so sometimes you would pick Sorlins over Spring Blades if you just needed movement speed. But generally speaking, you're not going to pick it over it for any other reason, right? Even if it hits more targets, doesn't matter. So Phoenix Eye, you can take over Infernal. I mean, you can. Sometimes people will do that if you need AoE. One thing to note though, when you have the large scale fights, for some reason, if you have too many people on the screen, artifacts just stop working. Like you can't even use them. The area around, so when you select your artifact and it brings up the bubble to show you the range of it, that just doesn't show up and you can't use it. So and this happens even on PC, so it's not just a mobile thing, it happens on all platforms. So that's why a lot of people argue, okay, well, Infernal Flame is good because you just click that. It's like this. It's like Dragon Scale. You just click it when it's ready, and then it does its thing, right? So you can use it in those large Zerg fights. So that's one thing that makes Infernal just substantially better than Phoenix Eye in the big fights, because Infernal is going to do way more single target damage. So if you're fighting in small scale and you're just trying to hit 1 or 2 targets, then yes, Infernal all the way. Phoenix Eye is only really comparable, and not even really that comparable, but it's only comparable when it is hitting multiple targets or up to 5. So if you can't hit anybody, though, because there's too many people on the screen, well, Phoenix Eye is going to lose that value, isn't it? So something to consider, if you have too many people on the screen, Phoenix Eye does diminish in value a little bit because it's hard to get that artifact off. Some other ones here, we have Magic Bomb, if I can find it. So yeah, Magic Bomb is actually super good. Magic Bomb, it's not about the damage really with this. It's a free-to-play artifact, but Magic Bomb, what it does is it stops the unit from going into cities. It stops them from going to resource points. So this can actually trap people when they're trying to do city hopping. So in one of my previous videos, I talked about Syndrian. Syndrian's city hopping because when he hops out, he gets rapid fire, which means he gets the double attacks for a short time, and then you can hop back in and do it again with no cooldown. Well, you can punish that. If you drop Magic Bomb on him, he can't hop back in, and if there's enough people around, you can just destroy that Syndrian March outright in the time that it takes for Magic Bomb to detonate, which is 8 seconds. So this doubles. Magic Bomb is primarily for the damage, right? But it actually doubles as some pretty strong CC or crowd control because of the simple fact that it traps those units outside of the city and resource points. Same with cabs, right? Emrys marches, they rely on swift maneuvers, which is where they go into a resource point and they come out really quickly, and that gives them that movement speed boost or the haste boost. Well, this stops them from doing that. So it makes it easier to maybe lock down that infantry march, or sorry, that cavalry march, and keep them from running away, okay? So Magic Bomb is actually a really good choice, and if you're tier 4 and you don't have a max Phoenix Eye, you should consider it if you have a max Magic Bomb, just to, once again, help your team, capitalize as much as they can. Very, very good, very, very good artifact. I definitely recommend it. Some other ones that you can run, you can do Freezing Ring. Most likely you're not going to use this. Anything like this is usually bad simply because all it's doing is, yes, it's delaying the inevitable, but it's also just, all it's going to end up doing is just trapping you. So you're going to go for 10 seconds, you're going to not move, and they're just going to surround you, and you're going to take even more sev wounds when you die quicker, right? So Freezing Ring, you're not going to really see. I wouldn't even recommend this. Honestly, I would just stay away from this. This is more of an infantry thing, in my opinion. I think infantry benefit from Freezing Ring better, and we'll talk about that in a future video. I'm going to go over Madeline soon. So Freezing Ring will come up in that video because Freezing Ring is actually super good on infantry, and a lot of people don't know about this. I feel like, so I'm going to bring it to the light. And then you have Staff of the Prophet. This is a good one too. Same with Tear of Arbonne. These are more utility. You're not going to see these very often. Usually with Tear of Arbonne, you're going to see that on like your Flying March. So like if you have a Thea Atheist, right? That's going to be something that you run with them. And then Staff of the Prophet, same. This is more of a supporty artifact. You're not going to really see this too often either. But if you do have to run like a tankier march for whatever reason, or if you just want to, like if you're playing debuffer, like if you're tier 4 and all you want to do is get debuffs off and support your team, then it's okay to run an HP or defense artifact. Those are really good options. And then the one I haven't talked about because you can't see it in this screen. Let me back out a little bit here. 1 second. So we need to go. I didn't talk about Infernal much. Infernal is going to be your go-to, okay? In most cases, you're going to want to run Infernal Flame. It's super good. It gives you Magic Keen as well. So, yep. So you get Magic Keen whenever you inflict Scorch on the enemy. So that's going to be all the time. When you're running Liliya, you're going to be inflicting Scorch all the time. It comes from her auto attacks. It comes from her skills. She's going to get this a lot of time. It can only happen every 10 seconds, but that's only a 5-second downtime. Most likely you're going to proc it immediately. So it's going to keep, it's just going to stay up. So overall damage, if you're looking for maximum DPS, Infernal Flame, there's nothing that beats it. It's going to be way better. Even if you're hitting multiple targets, it's still the best artifact to take, especially on Liliya, because of synergy with the Keen effect on scorched enemies. So definitely take Infernal if you are a medium to whale and you're focusing on mages. Then you want to get this as soon as you can in your shop. I don't know, it depends on where you're at in the season and stuff, but you want to get Infernal Flame ASAP and you want to max it out if you're focusing on mages. It's still useful even if you're not even using it on Liliya. You won't get the Keen effect unless you do some stuff with like having her as a deputy or something. But it's still very good. The single target damage is actually kind of absurd. And there you guys have it. That is my Liliya guide. Basically, just closing thoughts. Liliya is going to be a future-proof hero that you can use and rely on for a long time. Ignore my golden rock. This is probably because I was out of stamina in a fight and I just needed to swap to something. Just ignore the golden rock. Anyways, Liliya is going to be a character that you can use for a very long time. I do not think, even with new mage heroes coming out, they just announced infantry are coming next, whatever. So mages will probably be after that. Even with mages coming out or new mages coming out, I don't think that you're going to see Liliya go away anytime soon, just because of that skill tree and also because she does an absurd amount of damage. She really does. If you just calculate the amount of damage her Scorch does with her her skill 1, she does some nutty damage even with a peacekeeping skill. I mean, she still does absurd damage. So I think Liliya is here to stay. I don't think she'll be going away anytime soon. It's going to take multiple mage releases to kind of phase her out. And even then, we're going to get more marches. They've already confirmed that we're going up to 7 soon. So when we have 7 marches, that's seven different heroes that you're going to need for a lead if you're only playing mages, right? Which most likely won't happen. So you'll need tons of mages to finally phase Liliya out. And I can only imagine that they're going to release more fire mages and things like that are just going to make her stronger, because they're probably going to release a mage that synergizes well with Scorch or something along those lines. And then boom, Liliya's right back at the top of the menu. So if you're on the fence on whether you should invest in Liliya or not, just go for it. She is so good. She's great value. I'm at the end of season, well, technically 2, but this is like my 3rd season because we had the 1.5 season. So this is like 3 seasons of playing. 220 days I've been playing this game, and I've never stopped using Liliya. Okay, so definitely do not feel scared or worried that you're gonna have this character replaced. Just go for it. Spend the money there. Those are good packs anyways. So just spend the money, get Liliya awakened, and use her. That's all I've got for this video. I appreciate you guys, and thank you for watching.